watch it be Evan Peters playing just like some whatever throwaway character.
It's Doctor Doom, but then he pulls off the mask and it's just Evan Peters.
All right, welcome back to the Starfighter podcast, where we talk everything nerdy. And of course, tonight we are breaking down episode 5 of the Loki series. Joining me here tonight, Nick Brabens. How's it going, bro?
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing good. Glad to have you back on. It's going to be fun. There's kind of a lot to unpack, but I feel like it's not so much from this particular episode. I think because this is the penultimate episode, tonight we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about our predictions for the finale, and I'm sure we'll talk about just kind of like a summary of what's been going on leading us up to this point here. And there definitely were some really cool Easter eggs, so we'll make mention of those and talk about what we liked, what we didn't like. But yeah, before we get into everything, guys, you know what to do. Hit all the buttons, subscribe, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. We definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts and theories going forward with this series, because it's a lot of fun to hear from you guys. But all right, let's get into it, Nick. Why don't we start with some initial thoughts? How do you enjoy this episode?
I thought the episode was pretty good. I don't know. Gosh, I don't know much else to say other than it was a good episode. I feel like there was a lot of more action sequences than like story stuff being revealed. I feel like that's just obviously going to be saved for the last episode, but still a good episode regardless. Especially the way that like the older version of Loki and the younger version of Loki were kind of more upfront characters than like the rest of the Lokis. I also feel like in all the trailers that we've seen for this series leading up to like before the series began, I was waiting for like President Loki or whatever to show up and have a bigger role, and in reality I feel like we all just got debated and thought like he was going to play a bigger role than what he actually did.
Yeah.
But no, a very good episode, especially like this dynamic, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later, but the dynamic between Loki and Sylvie, just expanding more on that, and just thought it was, again, just a good episode.
My initial thoughts, I think it was a pretty good episode. I don't think it was great. I think last week's episode is still the best by far, like by a long shot compared to all the other episodes. That's just my opinion. But of course, I do really like the series as a whole, and so far I like it much better than WandaVision and Falcon.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean there are just some things about it. Definitely felt like we could have gotten more, and I really thought that we were going to also get to see who the big bad was by the end. And of course they kind of just like took us just far enough.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But it also makes sense that they didn't like just totally give away everything in this episode. I feel like they're setting it up more for one of the movies in the future, more than this series. So it makes sense. And it, like I said, like I agree with you. It wasn't great, is good. And definitely the fourth episode had just so much story to it that I feel like that's what, made it a great episode. But yeah, I agree with you.
But yeah, let's just get right into it. A couple of big things that we wanted to talk about. Let's begin with this introduction to the Void, and then let's talk about meeting the different Lokis. That's kind of where we picked up from the mid-credit scene last week. I don't know much about if there's like much background when it comes to the Void in the comics, but last week me and Jake were talking about the previous episode we were reviewing, and we had both mentioned Limbo, which is a planet, and it's pretty much self-explanatory. You know, they're kind of in a place of limbo, and so that it kind of felt like that too. How I would imagine that kind of being. They weren't really anywhere, but they weren't really gone. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that's kind of how I felt about that. Maybe it's just similar, or yeah, maybe they're just using a different name for Limbo in this, but definitely interesting. We had also talked about at the end of that mid-credit scene the Avengers Tower, and so this is also a we're kind of like expanding on that Easter egg. I don't know if you had caught that before in last week's episode,
Yeah,
Nick.
I had I saw that, but go ahead. I think you have something more to say on it.
Yeah, so it seemed like they were in New York, and so even that could have still been in limbo or the void or whatever. Um, but it appeared to be New York in just like a different timeline or something. When we open with these scenes, we're kind of like panning forward, kind of just getting like the landscape right. And I feel like some of these Easter eggs are really hard to make out too. But if you go back, you can find that the building that we thought was, Tony Stark's tower, the Avengers Tower, it actually the letters make out, they spell Kang, but that and so we've talked a little bit about this in some of our reviews. Maybe you're a little bit familiar with Kang, and he's also speculated to be the villain in Ant-Man Quantumania. So this would make sense, and then it would all kind of tie in, right? Um, so just like finishing up this Easter egg, it spells Kang, but it spells it Qeng, and so this apparently goes back to one of the comics. Doing my research here, in a certain like storyline, Kang ends up having this company that purchases the Stark Tower from Tony, and so it's a callback to that. And so maybe we'll continue to touch a little bit on maybe King and some theories going forward for the finale later on. But um, that's a Easter egg kind of right off the bat with our opening. Was there anything that you wanted to add in there?
Yeah, no, I thought you were gonna say that. That's why I wanted you to finish that thought. Is because I had to do some research myself. I'm not too familiar with Kang, but I noticed that a lot of places brought up that Easter egg where it's the Kang Tower. And I hope I'm saying that right. I hope it's not some
Yeah,
funky name that. Oh, okay, cool. But yeah, so that was pretty interesting. I noticed that. Um, but they are really just they come really quick. Like those Easter eggs, I feel like just show up really fast, and then just go away. Um, but yeah, that makes sense. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I think it's confirmed that Kang is the villain in Ant Man and Wasp now because
yeah,
they found the actor for it.
right.
Yeah, I don't think Ant Man and Wasp comes out until 2023, so we got like a pretty long stretch before, if he is going to be like the main villain in that, before he might even get a reveal. But um there's I guess we can talk a little bit more about it towards the end, but I guess he was casted for that role as Kang. I can't remember the actor's name. He was cast in September 2020, and that's when they started midway through when they were shooting the scenes for Loki. So there's speculation on whether or not he might have like a little scene, maybe, or we might catch a glimpse of him somewhere in the final episode. But who's to say?
Yeah, we'll see because I mean, there's a chance that it could be King just right off the bat next episode. Once they go through from where we leave off at the end of this episode, they could just go right to him, to that like tower. Something else, really quick, another Easter egg that is kind of towards the beginning of the episode. It's called the Thanos copter.
Yeah, I
Did
saw
you
that.
did you notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool. Um, I don't think that it's I mean, it's a stretch for sure, but I don't think that it's like impossible or like, out of the question to possibly have Thanos come back somehow.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like this is more of
It's
just
not
like a
necessarily
nice.
what I would want, but yeah.
Right, yeah, I feel like this is more just like a little nod to the comics, like, since everything from different timelines all just kinda crashes in this one point. I feel like it's just kind of a nod to, "Hey, look, this happened, and we wanted to include it," so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and since we're going over the Easter eggs, let's just throw in one of the other big ones too. Um, so Loki obviously meets up with the variants, and then they go back to like their hideout or whatever. Right before they like go underground, we see Throg, which is Thor in frog form, which is also a callback to the comics.
Oh,
And
interesting. I didn't catch this, so
he kind of goes hand in hand with alligator Loki.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So kind of funny. But yeah, if you go back, you know how the camera starts to pan underground? Um, like towards the middle right there, before they go completely underground, there's Throg inside like a jar or something.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
I did catch it. I just didn't I was like, "That's Thor," but see, so I'm not too familiar with the
And I think he's
comics.
like he's trying to get to his hammer or something like that. But um yeah, I mean a lot of these things go by pretty quickly. So
Mhm. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny because at first I was like, "Is that Thor in a test tube? What in the world?" Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
but yeah, so some pretty cool things, from the beginning. Let's talk about Sylvie and Mobius coming back into this episode. Before I throw it over to you, I gotta say, I've got mixed feelings. I mean, of course, I had a feeling that Sylvie was gonna find Loki, but I said this last week. I think a big reason why the last episode was so good is because they took these big risks, and I just really don't want to see another WandaVision finale where we take these risks or we make these sacrifices and then they don't really amount to anything in the end. And so I'm a little worried, for next week, but we'll see. And it all just comes down to execution too, because at the end of the day, I mean, I did say that like depending on how they do things, like I could be happy either way. It's just um like Mobius' death was just so impactful and I think meant so much to Loki's character progression that, in my opinion, I felt like it was best to leave him gone, even though like Owen Wilson's character, like, and he does just such an amazing job. I just think that it would have been better storytelling to just leave him gone. But, he's back and that's cool. And they also got some great scenes together as well. Most notably when they say goodbye, and um, I mean, I feel like you and I've had those moments where it's like you might have those moments like with your friend where it's like, oh, they go for the handshake, but it's like no, bro, like, oh, I don't know when I'm gonna see you next, or and like you mean so much to me, you know what I mean? And I feel like Loki's never really had that moment before because, as I mentioned before, he's still kind of really new to having friends and having relationships where there's like mutual respect and mutual trust. So that was a really great moment. But anything you want to touch on here?
Yeah, I never really I didn't give that too much thought, because I was just so happy that me personally, I was so happy that Mobius was back, because, I mean, since that, like, mid credit scene, they don't actually die when they get pruned, they just get put to the end of the world, or, I can't remember the exact name of that place, or if it's given a name. But, in my mind, my first thought was like, "Oh, awesome, like, Mobius isn't dead, but where is he?" Um,
Oh, you mean the void? The
or the
void, right?
Void. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the Void. So, like, that was a thought that I had too, is like, "Oh, he can't be dead then if that's what happens when you get pruned. Uh, so I understand your feelings on it, and it makes sense. But I think my feelings of like, oh, that's sick, Mobius isn't dead, like kind of are more than like, well, you could just leave him gone. I feel like he'll probably be gone. I don't think, I mean, unless he comes in to save the day somehow in episode 6, I do have a feeling he is going to leave and either come back maybe in some other either new series that we're gonna get, or possibly a movie. I mean, it's hard to say. Um,
Did I send you that meme
I don't think so.
this weekend? Oh,
No.
I thought that I did. There's this really funny meme where it's like it says like this is the way that the finale of Loki should be, and it's it's like kind of like bobblehead versions of Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston on a jet ski, like Loki's behind Mobius, like hanging on to him on this jet ski, and the song, from like I think it was the first episode or maybe it was the second episode, but the "I Need a Hero" song
Oh,
is playing.
I gotta either send that to me or I'll
I
look
will
it up.
send that. I will
That's
send that to you. It
that would
was
be
so
perfect.
funny.
That would be perfect, man. But yeah, I feel like either way, I don't think it's gonna be a Wanda. I mean, I don't know how, because I've just enjoyed. This is by far my favorite, like TV series or whatever. I don't even know what to call it. It's not like technically a TV series, but just like Disney Plus series, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I really hope that they don't pull a WandaVision. I feel like it's pretty hard for them to pull a WandaVision at this point. Um, that's just my opinion.
And a lot of people really liked the ending of WandaVision. So I mean, if you did, that's great. For me, it just didn't really work. Um, and so I think that they're gonna do something different.
Yeah. It's yeah, I mean if you did like it, that's cool. It just didn't stick. The ending didn't stick the landing with me either.
And and so I was also saying one of my original theories for how the series would end is that I thought Sylvie might die. That death again would also push Loki's character forward and, just be really impactful. When we saw Loki die last episode, or we thought that he died when he got pruned, I was like, "Oh wow, I like that even better." And I was almost like, "You know what? It's just these are really gutsy moves and like if Marvel wanted to, like I think that Sylvie could have brought the whole thing home with these last 2 episodes. Like I would have really liked to have seen something like that because um you don't have to do it all the time, but I think sometimes taking risks like that can work and really pay off, especially with something like this, which I feel like all the different actors have really proven themselves throughout this series so far.
Yeah,
So,
I agree with that too. I think that would have been a pretty crazy move, like to just hand the torch off essentially to Sylvie as the new Loki. I'm sure she could have. She, yeah, I'm sure she could have carried it like the rest of the way to the end of the series. I just feel like knowing Disney and knowing Marvel, like the Marvel movies, they wouldn't do that until like another end game essentially. You know what I mean? Like that's like an end game moment, right? Because we see people get older or pass away, to make all this stuff just that impactful for the end. It would be cool to see that risk taken in like this show, but I feel like that's like that's like giving everything away too early. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel
yeah.
about it. But would it be
So
cool? Yeah, it'd be cool.
there still could be something like that at the end too. Let's talk a little bit about Loki and Sylvie's relationship. We get this moment here where they're obviously talking, and again, I felt like this was kind of going to be a little bit more. Um, where Loki would kind of express more of his feelings, but it still definitely felt like that. And so just want to throw this out to you. Is this which side do you land on here? Is it more of like this self-absorption kind of weird romance, or is it more of finding your other half in like a very literal term, I guess?
Yeah, I'm honestly like I'm neither one way or the other. I'm like right in the middle. And I feel like cuz Loki says, "Hey, when this is over, let's figure this out together." Literally, that's like where I'm at cuz I'm like, "Well, is it this weird romantic relationship? Like what? Or is it this relationship where yeah, you're finding yourself or it's like you feel like you can trust somebody like brother sister type thing?" I mean, I feel like they're
I mean, he definitely has feelings. There's been a
yeah,
couple moments where I question how far her feelings go.
right.
Um, but
I just feel like where it's like or maybe just like, are they just maybe not necessarily brother sister, but are they just friends or and it's like that or is it just this weird romantic relationship? And I feel like that's kind of where maybe the majority of the audience is too, unless, a lot of people are rooting for the romantic relationship. I mean, I'm not sure. I feel like I'm just right smack in the middle like what's going to happen, like what and it's probably they're probably, Loki's character is probably thinking the same thing. I'm sure Sylvie's probably thinking the same thing. Like what the heck is this relationship because it's myself. Right. But
yeah,
yeah, I just I don't know. I just want to see how it plays out.
we don't really have to touch on it too much, but it is interesting. We saw that Ravonna obviously wants answers to. I think she was kind of kept in the dark to an extent, just like the other variants and everything as well. So maybe she'll have some kind of change of heart, possibly. I do feel like there is a part of her that's good. Um, but and you know what? I feel like a huge theme throughout this is constantly questioning yourself, like who you really are. Obviously, with Loki's character, what makes a Loki a Loki, and is that always just like set in stone to be one thing, or can you make drastic changes and improve yourself as a person? So, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I read that there was also an Easter egg too, where Ravonna on her jacket, I think it says like A23, and that's a reference to I think an Avengers comic number 23, where Ravonna I think she has some type of romantic relationship with Kang. I
Yeah,
think.
she does.
Yeah,
You're correct. Yeah.
so there I don't know. We don't really know the backstory of Ravonna, to be honest. Like, does she actually know what's going on with the timekeepers and whatnot? And is she trying to actually protect somebody that she loves, or is this really just like she is trying to figure out who this person is that would essentially make up the timekeepers, or at least uh, make these robots, right?
Yeah.
So kind of like you don't really know yet.
Let's cut to kind of the conclusion. Let's talk a little bit, real briefly, about this battle here. Of course, they decided they're all going to bring down Eliath. Something interesting to note about Eliath is that the way that I don't know if you guys caught this, but the way that he kills people is by like pushing them like super far to like past their lifespan, essentially like aging them like really far.
Yeah.
And we are able to kind of see that too. I mean, obviously, research tells us that, but if you like do a little bit of digging, but like when he ends up taking out classic Loki here, who I thought did a great job. I really liked his character. Everything, you know, is gone. Like he gets taken out, but his helmet is still left behind at the very end. But if you noticed, the helmet is like super rusted and aged. So that was just
Mhm.
like something really interesting. Um, and then of course, it takes the three of them. So classic Loki is like distracting Eliath while Loki and Sylvie are using both of their powers to enchant Eliath so that they can kind of like see what's behind the door, so to speak. And that was really cool, them being able to like both channel their powers. And Sylvie obviously says like, you can do this even though you've never done it before. Like, you can do it because we're the same. And of course it works. And then we don't really know for sure what we're dealing with here, but let's spend like these last few minutes with some speculation for the finale next week.
Yeah, I think but just to touch on classic Loki too, I thought that was awesome. I'm not really too sure if he was building an actual city or if it was just something that he envisioned to project or if it
I'm
was
not sure. I'm not completely sure either. The way that I saw it was that he was kind of bringing that town and like the city and everything back to life,
yeah,
which would kind of go back to what I was saying about Eliath's powers and how he takes down his prey.
right. Yeah, I also like there was one big central building that they kind of focused on for I think most of the shots, and it almost looked like something from Asgard, like the actual like castle in my opinion, but
Oh,
then
okay.
again, but that's why it's like I'm not really too sure, one way or the other whether that's the surrounding area or whatnot. Anyway, that whole scene was really cool. Um and then I figured out that that was kind of what he was doing was like super aging people when that huge ship dropped and started firing at it because when Eliath flies away you can kind of see the ship is just all beaten up, there's moss around it, it's beaten and battered and whatnot, so you could kind of tell that there was like advancing of time, which makes sense. But yeah, when they open up that door, essentially using that enchantment or whatever, yeah, that castle appears. And so I guess just like a couple things, um, after doing some research to tie it into Kang, people are speculating that it's castle limbo. I mean, I've never heard of that. I guess it's been referenced a couple times in the comics, really briefly. Another reference that it could possibly be, but it doesn't seem likely, is it's Castle Doom, which
Oh,
I
yeah.
f- I feel like it's probably not, but that's a cool theory. Like if they brought back Doctor Doom, I feel like he's a pretty good villain, and I think they are trying to get another Fantastic Four movie in the works. So hopefully it's
At some point, yeah.
yeah. So that doesn't really make sense for them to do that this early, even though it would be pretty cool. I feel like it's another Loki for some odd reason.
That's
Uh,
kind of how I feel too. Yeah. Jake had been saying that before, and I was kind of like, yeah, maybe. But I felt like if this episode did anything for me, it really put that into my mind as like a really big possibility. Um, because it's just like Loki, 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 Loki. You know what I mean? They're just
right.
like kind of like trying to drive something home here. Like
Hmm.
it's about Loki.
Yeah. Right. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards is like it's
But
gonna
that could be a
be.
curveball too.
It totally could be. I mean, it could be like some other villain that we don't even know about, and then all of a sudden it's just like, and then it's just gone. The moment's just gone. I feel like if it was a bigger villain that's going to appear in a movie, it would just be a brief, maybe like 2 to 3 minute scene, and then something will happen, and then everybody goes away. Um, that's kind of how I feel about it because, like I said, I don't think Disney's gonna like just throw all their eggs into this Loki basket, to just like really give it a finish. I feel like they're
Yeah.
gonna save it for a movie. So we'll see. I don't know. I feel like it's a Loki though.
So that's gonna be your guess if you had to
Uh,
guess.
yeah, if I had to guess, it would be I think it's gonna be another variant of Loki.
If you'd asked me at the very end of watching this episode, I would have like 100% said for sure Loki. But then after I found all of these other Easter eggs and learned about them and how there's like so many callbacks to and so many things like pointing to King the Conqueror, it's really hard. Like it's a toss up. I feel like it's got to be either a Loki variant or King the Conqueror.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would want it to be Kang,
I
but
would too.
if it ends up being Loki, it's like that makes sense, you know?
But I don't want to see like another Mephisto thing again. It's you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because yeah, that was lame.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I don't want it to be a Ralph Boner situation either. I really, really don't.
Yeah, let's hope we can use all of our energy to not make it a Ralph Boner situation.
Yeah. Watch it be Evan Peters playing just like some whatever throwaway character.
It's Doctor Doom, but then he pulls off the mask and it's just Evan Peters.
Yeah. All right, man. I think we got to get out of here so we can do our live show. Um, but yeah, I thought this was a great review, fun time. I mean, there's
Absolutely.
so much to unpack, but I feel like we kind of got through it.
And I feel like this episode in particular, like if we get a couple movies or maybe even like the next big Marvel movie that comes out, I feel like this episode in particular has replayability to go back and be like, oh wait, I see that now, I see this now, I see this now. I feel like that is a good episode. This is a good episode for that, but overall, good episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey,
Oh, I almost forgot one thing real quick.
yeah, go for it.
I don't know if I want it to happen because like I'm kind of okay with them being in a relationship, I guess, but there's a small part of me that thinks Sylvie is going to turn on Loki. Have you felt that way at all?
Hmm. I feel like there's like a little bit of me that feels like she's gonna turn
I
on
felt like
Loki,
that as soon as she asked Loki, "How do I know you're not going to betray me?"
right?
in like our final moments or you know when it comes down to the end, and I was like, I don't know,
Right.
might
Yeah.
be some reverse psychology here or
Yeah.
something.
Could be. There's also a little part of me too that feels like to really build on Loki's character, Sylvie will end up dying, or at least we'll think that she'll be dead. Um so it's hard to see. It's like, will they turn on each other? Will she die? Will this happen? Will that happen? Oh man, I don't know. We just gotta get that
Yeah,
hour and a half long review of episode 6
yeah,
next week.
we could speculate forever, but and it's a good time for sure. But yeah, we got to wrap things up here. You know, for our viewers, listeners, definitely let us know in the comments your theories, what's going to happen next week, how will it end, and who will be the big bad when we get that reveal. But all right, Nick, thanks again. Everyone, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Leave us that like as well. We will see you next week when we break down the finale of Loki. And also, check out our live shows that we do every Wednesday. We're about to go get on that right now. But we do our Everything Nerdy shows where we talk everything nerdy and relevant in entertainment news and give some recommendations, hear from you guys. So that's a lot of fun. And all right, that about wraps it up. We're signing out here at the Starfighter Podcast. We will see you guys next time.
See ya.